Greetings, programs. It's Hanker Inferno back once again. Welcome back to Runehammer. And like me, and you're getting get a little bit psyched about Dark Sun, I thought I would throw out 3 adventures or encounters, really, to kickstart or jumpstart your Dark Sun campaign if you're thinking about working on one. So I don't have a cast of heroes here because I haven't come up with a cast of heroes. I don't have Dark Sun characters yet, but I do have 3 great ideas for, I hope they're great, for encounters that will kick off your campaign with a bang and get you right down into the knit and the grit of Athos, okay? So if you've got your Dark Sun book and you're looking in there going, what should I do? I didn't take like a million specific details out of the books or anything like that. Just read through and got a sense for, the geography and the basics and a few of the monsters and stuff like that. And then before you know it, the imagination station is off and running. First one is called The Awakening. Now this one is sort of to introduce sort of poverty to your players, like having nothing and being out in the wastelands, and then also to introduce like deadliness and like get things started really fast and push the imminence of what's going to happen as they try to make their way across like the Tablelands or the Ringing Mountains in Athos. Or on Athos. It's a planet, not a country. That's the deal. So The Awakening is my very first one. Now it's a real simple board, as you can see. I don't have like some kind of crazy maze or something here. I just have some scatter. And then I have this little set of wagons here. So I have one really big wagon, which I just took a couple of my mine carts and put a bridge on top, and that makes a really big wagon. And then they have some supplies that have scattered, and then they're pulling a cage wagon behind. And this is a scene somewhere out in the Ringing Mountains in the red stone deserts of Athos, right? Your characters, your heroes, are going to be traveling across the landscape and they're going to be desperate for supplies. That's going to be the starting tone that you're going to have them make their characters knowing that. So one way to do that is to give them sort of like one possession that they can have. And that could be food, or it could be a weapon, or it could be whatever. But if they only get one possession just right away at level 1, they've created characters, they're out in the wasteland, they can't even barely remember where they came from or where they're going. They just need to find shelter and supplies, and they're just desperate. And they're coming in from over here. Okay, they're coming in from the Tablelands, and they're heading to the mountains where maybe there's more shelter. Okay, there you go. That's really the entire introduction. Is, you're wandering across these wastelands. You haven't had food for 4 days. You're pretty close to the end. It's getting hotter and hotter, but there's some rocks up ahead, you think maybe. And then in the waves of heat over on the horizon, you actually see some shapes of lumber and wheels, and it looks like what's left of a caravan. So, let's go over there. So they go over, they start looking around, they see this space, and they're going to see this wrecked caravan. So it's a really big wagon that used to have like supplies on it, like lumber here, and I have a few crates and barrels laying on the ground. And then this cage wagon behind, and they actually see a figure in the cage. Now if your group is mostly men playing, I would have this be a woman. If your group has, 2 or more ladies in it, then I would have this be a guy. The reason is, you kind of want this victim in this cage to be kind of like Keira Knightley in the newer King Arthur movie, where she's kind of this, a hero who's down and out at the moment, who's kind of a victim, and you could really use this to make a cool NPC relationship. And I mean like a little bit of a love interest, So like you want that dynamic to be part of where this takes your campaign. If you have a female role player in your group who's really good at catching those cues, and then make it a guy and make him a good guy, make him someone she can like and form that bond. And if vice versa, if you have a male role player who's really kick-ass, then you can make it a woman and she can be strong and she can be, hold her own, but also take a shine to this guy and build that relationship. And that's going to take your campaign to a human and beautiful place. Okay, so that's setting the scene. So they come in, they approach, they start making perception checks. They're checking out this caravan. They're like, whoa, what is all this stuff? Hey, they're like, hey, look, supplies. So our heroes are moving forward. For the sake of just so you can see, I'm just going to use chain here. And chain will represent our group. So our group comes up and looks around, and as they're looking around, maybe I roll a suspense dice, or maybe I just decide when it's time. I always like to roll timer dice, so that's just me. But from back here, behind this, you see I have like this gray stone wall. That to me implies like a bigger edifice of rock that I would describe if someone was looking into it. And back here we have these, what I call Drac Defilers. And I'm sure there are lots of monsters on Athos that will fit these creatures, but I always like to invent my own creatures. It's just how I am. So these are desert-dwelling draconic humanoids, kind of like lizard folk, who are waiting in ambush for anyone who would come across this caravan. So they appear, the group's like, oh God, no! Get out of here. One of the groups noticed one of these crates is filled with food and like casks of wine like this. This is the most fortune you've ever had. There's even like a few bone swords in here and like an obsidian spear even, which is like an awesome weapon. And like, wow, okay, this is our stuff now. And right as they're excited about the stuff, the Drac Defilers show up. These are basically just low-level lizard guys that also have something like Magic Missile. Just give them one simple spell, and they cast this spell, and they draw up the sand and shoot this desert spell, and they come up, and then the player notices, whoa, there's someone trapped in that cage. And actually the person in the cage, it looks like they're all beat up and bruised, and the cage has been dented and smashed a little bit, and their hand has become caught in this cage. That's key. That's a key detail. The hand is caught in the cage, and they can't break free, and we'll just say it's she. She keeps looking skyward like this and pulling on the hand and looking skyward, just freaking out. So this battle is ensuing. One of these lizard folk guys get killed. The other guys move in. One goes around the side and then he's like psh, 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 with the magic missiles. And oh man, that's me. Where's my archer? We don't have a bow and arrow, dude. We'll go find one. I can't. I'll just take this board and I'll use it as a spear. Oh, he's hit. This whole time I have another timer going. When that timer runs out, they hear something up above. This terrible cry up in the high clouds of Athos coming down toward them. And sure as shit, this is the first adventure of level 1 characters. And this black dragon with golden spikes up his back, these huge curling horns, comes down out of the clouds, sweeps across the board. And for the sake of not annihilating your level 1 party right away, he breathes this, not quite fire, because fire would be too earth-like. He breathes this wave of like invisible heat, like he has a heat breath, not just flames, but heat. And so this heat sears across the sand, and like maybe some of this lumber that fell off the cart is out here, and he comes across and he just burns the sand black, but without flames. It's just this heat breath, and this lumber catches fire. So I don't really have a fire thing, but there, the lumber catches fire, and this fire bursts up. The black dragon goes, comes across. Then I roll another timer. So right away, your players should be figuring out what that timer is now, right? Or you can tell them, like, okay, the dragon's coming back in that many rounds, right? If you want to be a nice guy. Oh crap. And then after this dragon goes by, the woman in the cage is like, help me. It'll kill us all. And when the thing flies by, if any of the players bother to look, these Drac Defilers, they're all like, fall to their knees, and they're like, the master, he is here, we have succeeded. You know, they have like some weird lizard language. Party continues to dispatch these Drac Defilers who continue to cast spells, and they're fighting, time is running out. The hand trapped in the cage is a key mechanic because you're racing against time for this dragon to come back. And that hand won't come free. So now if you're playing ICRPG, you've got like an effort task on your hands, right? Because you don't want to hack her arm off. I mean, you could do that. But you want to something that isn't just going to be a check, like, I want to pull her arm free. I did it. That's not good enough. You need to be slowly trying to, come on, we need to, moments are passing and you're trying to get the thing out of there and bend the bars, and then we're almost there, we're halfway, her hand is coming loose. It's like, you gotta act now, dude. Another one of these guys gets killed. And this time, the dragon comes in and he means business. The first time he was just calibrating his instruments. This time he comes right across like this. Right through your group. Now give them a low DC, but everybody's going to roll to save. But make it low. Make it like 10 or 11. So odds are in their favor to make the save, but if they don't, man, the chances of surviving are very low. But you're going to nerf your dragon a little bit. You're not going to do 10d8 to a level 1 guy. That's just being a troll. But you could do 4d8. 48 at level 1 is pretty sinking scary, right? So it comes across, if they don't save, they take 48. If they do save, they take 2d8. Then this guy's still here, magic missile. One guy drops. Whoa, man, makes a death save. We got to get that guy up. Hey, there's some bandages in one of these crates. Okay, fix him up. Up with 1 hit point. We got to get the hell out of here. Wagon catches fire. Huge fire. Oh my God. And it's putting up all this black smoke. So people for miles are seeing where you are now. This is not good in the desert where there's no supplies and people scavenge each other's stuff. People know you're here. Finally, they break the cage apart. They get the girl out. We got to get out of here. And she's like, follow me. And they're like, to where? And she's like, you're going to have to trust me. Cool stuff, right? Timer runs out. This guy runs up. He's locked in melee combat with like the tank as the group is escaping this way. This guy comes across, this time this way. And he comes down and lands. Right? Or he hovers. All this stuff catches fire. Make the save again. This guy fails his save. He's burned to cinders even though he worships the damn thing. Wow, cruel world, right? Oh my God, okay, everything's on fire. These carts are just ash now. This thing's been blown to bits. The supplies are all gone, so anything not salvaged and escaped with is destroyed. Then you have one character who's stayed behind to buy everyone time, and he's face to face with this fucking thing. And it's just like, the dragon's going, vroom, vroom. And so being a character probably like something I would do, he like throws a spear at it. Right? Bounces off the thing's chest, and now my dragon gets a turn. And he just tail whips this guy. And let's say he succeeds, so he knocks him over here. And then the dragon, amidst all this burning stuff, just starts devouring it. And we're just going to go with like a rain of fire type black dragon. So they actually eat ashes. So he's just chomping down on all this burnt wood and stuff and just eating it all and like looking around. And he doesn't even care about the person. He wants to eat all this burnt wood. This is a way bigger meal. Gives our guy a chance to escape. And then you're good. Off he goes. The girl leads them to a cavern where she's been hiding recently. It turns out that she's actually a desert raider who's been trying to stop these Drac defilers from awakening this black dragon, who's actually just a baby. It's just a young black dragon that's a child of the bigger one that lives underground somewhere, and she's been trying to solve the mystery. There are these pylon things, just like in my adventure from the other night. And somehow if the pylons are all lifted out of the desert, the big dragon, which is like the size of a city, will awaken and come out of the desert, and she's actually like a hero, and she's been trying to stop it. Okay, there you go. There's your first night of gameplay. Now it could be 2 boards. You could have a separate board where they're just traveling, and then this board where they find the scene and the whole thing plays out. So, Hankerin, you're a little bit crazy, dude. You're going to bring a black dragon down on first level players and just like the first night of gameplay? Hell yeah, man. A, this is Dark Sun. B, be awesome. Just go for it with this stuff. No one's going to get killed because you're not going to bring the dragon again and again and again. You've got the go-by that's a freebie. You've got a go-by that can be saved. Then you've got a come down where this is destroyed and a tail whip. You're not going to play your dragon as a player killer dragon. You're playing it as a little bit of a story device. But also as just being, oh my God, yes, we're going to be on Dark Sun. We're going to be looking for metal and stuff. And we've got like this dragon problem to solve. And we have this new friend who's like a hero who seems to know a little more about Dark Sun than we do. And let's go down into the cavern and let's start exploring and seeking out the golden pylons to stop the great dark one from awakening. That's what you walk away with after your first night of gameplay. Those are some pretty cool seeds. Okay, so that's just one of the starters. That's the first one. So let's clean all this mess up and let's move on to the second one. Hey, here we are at the second starter adventure or encounter for Dark Sun. This one is called the Wall of Sand. All right, so as far as your terrain or your lay of the land, this you want to be out in the tablelands. This is out in the wastelands, in the flatlands. There's just nothing, right? And then there's this outcrop of rock and this citadel with a ringed wall. Okay, so this could be on any surface of that ringed wall, but there are no gates. This is just a massive sort of wall of mixed stone and lumber and even like bone spikes here and there, built out in the middle of the desert to protect this single tower that's sort of out here. Okay? So that's the lay of the land. Your players are going to come in toward this thing. And in this case, your players are not like wanderers looking for supplies. This is their mission. Their mission is to explore the Citadel of Sand. Okay, so they've been paid to go do this, to wander out here with supplies. They're probably a little better equipped. And their job is to get inside of here and to see what's in there and to reconnoiter, to retrieve any treasure possible and report back alive, so that if a larger force is needed to take this, there's a lord, let's say, even in Tyr, let's say, who's thinking about taking this citadel, and they want to do some recon first. So you come up and you're on a mission. So this already changes the tone of things a lot. So you are, aggressors, and you're coming up on this huge fortification. Now, the terrain can't quite show it. The wall is bigger than this. It's huge. But you don't want such a massive edifice of terrain that is just like unmanageable. So you just put that into your description, right? It's huge. It's this big rocky wall with these spires and all this crazy stuff and these guard towers here. And then near the wall, there's an old broke down siege machine. And these are all, if Chain represents our party, they're kind of coming in right here. And so these are all perception checks that are going to be made in the beginning part of the encounter, like where are we, what is this wall all about. So they find this old wrecked siege machine where it looks like someone already tried to sort of attack or break into this big fortified wall and kind of failed, like this thing's busted up. Maybe it's covered partially in sand and rock, but it can be retrieved with some work. It's just maybe somebody needs to know about devices, needs to know about repair, or maybe he just needs to take some time to get the lever reset and knock off some rust and put a new bolt in there. So anyway, whoa, yeah, cool. So that's your treat. So as your timer, you have the sort of the guardsmen who we can't see right now. But so as they approach and start poking around, this timer is ticking down. Okay, and that is basically when bad guy's going to show up. Now you have a couple scenarios that can happen. If they get up to the wall, like right up to it, yeah, like that, before the guardsman shows up, then it's time for your first wave of defenses. And for defenses, there are pressure plates hidden under the sand right up near the wall. And actually, after tripping one, players can figure out that they're actually, every few feet all the way around this wall, about 6 inches under the sand, there are these pressure plates. The pressure plates have two functions. One is these chains, and the chains shoot up out of the sand like that. And they're made out of like rusty bronze, basically. Like these things are this is not good material. This is salvaged material, but it's the most metal probably that your characters will have seen at level 1. So these chains shoot up and they will wrap around and entangle anything within however long you want to cut your piece of chain. So maybe half that might be cool, like that. So if it's triggered right there, this whole area becomes wrapped up in all these chains, and then you have a rogue who thought he was cool and he went over here and like these chains are triggered. Okay, so these are just tanglers, and then they begin ratcheting inward. If you get all the way back to the origin point of the chain without escaping, it'll like break your leg as it tries to pull you in. So obviously you're going to have like crushing damage, you're going to have a tangling force of grappling and all this kind of stuff. The other one is you got your good old-fashioned bed of spikes. So you can maybe do a dice roll to decide which trap is triggered. But you come up and you trigger the plate and these spikes just go through the sand. Like, my legs, oh my God. Or if you're like crawling up, right in the chest. And then they recede back down into the sand and disappear. And they can come up anywhere, right? Okay, cool. So that's your first level of defenses that this wall was built with. Then your timer counts down as the guardsman appears, and he goes, boom, 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 boom. And he flaps up on black wings from behind the wall. I don't know why he has this super base attached. This is a little silly. There we go. And it's this black desert demon, right? We could make him one of those Braxets or whatever from the book. Those things are great. Or the desert freak. So he comes up, and he has this like this spine, basically, where all the vertebrae have been sharpened, this big long spine. Maybe it's the spine of a silkworm, which is another Athos monster. But he's sharpened all the vertebrae and turned it into a whip. And he's like, dude's a badass. He's like, no one approaches the citadel of sand. And he's just a straight up, I kill people who approach guy. So he flies over, good, he's fighting, oh my God, this is crazy. Get that thing working, dude. I'm trying. Fired, miss, oh no. Like destroys this tower. Get another bolt in there. It's going to take me 2 turns to ratchet it up. Okay, do it. I'm going to fight this guy. It just keeps going. He hits the thing, triggers the trap. The chains are entangling the guardsman now. He's like, oh, he's enraged by that. But you're also entangled, one of the party members. This guy finally gets the thing, fires with the entangle. He doesn't miss, impales the guy. And then you can climb up over and make your way in, find some supplies, which are in these guard towers, supplies. And then head on inward, and you have overcome the wall of sand. So it sounds really simple, right? But, you know, I really speed things up when I describe these rooms. So you can easily get an hour or so of gameplay out of this. Now, is that enough for your first night? Hell yeah, totally. Have people come over, tell them what Dark Sun is, roll up characters, and then play this encounter. And as they go right back here, they see the citadel up ahead of them, and it's this featureless piece of black and red stone with no doors or windows or anything. And they're just like, what the? And then the night's over. Okay, you gotta cut it right there. Because you didn't plan what's in the citadel. You don't know anything about that. All you planned was this room right here. Now, if you want to get more time or more gameplay out of this, you could have more than one guardsman. You could have him supported by my desert lizard guys. Or you could also have an NPC component. There's a previous board that's more blank where the characters are approaching and they meet like an old hermit who tells them never to go there. There's a bit of an exchange. Maybe the hermit has a little bit of information. Maybe the hermit wants to sell them some stuff. Maybe the hermit is a trickster who actually works for the guardsmen, who tells them that the defenses of the wall are no longer functioning. You can just walk right up to it. Wink, wink. That's all part of your gameplay. Also, your characters are going to want to get to know each other a little bit. Maybe they're going to be chit-chatting, and that's going to eat up time. So when I think about designing these nights of gameplay, or just a room of gameplay, I don't try not to think too far into things. Like just this, and being ready to play this really fluidly and really fun and make it action-packed and complex and have different chapters, that's enough. Conquer that, especially for level 1 guys, and it's going to be a blast. Okay, so that's number 2, the wall of sand. Okay, so the third one, I believe, is called salvagers. Yes, salvagers. And that's going to be on an outcrop of rock in the Sea of Silt. So let's clean this mess up and let's go on to rune number 3. Oh wait, I forgot something. One of the spells that I wanted to give the guardsman. Okay, so the guardsman comes up, you have the defenses, you have this. The guardsman also, if you need to power him up a little bit or give him more oomph, you can use these, the claws of the desert, or the claws of the sand. These are crazy terrain that I made that are shaped like these sort of hand claw things. And he can summon them, and they come up out of the sand, and they can encompass a miniature like this and sort of start crushing it. And he's like, ha 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 ha, no one approaches the sand citadel. Ah. And then for double, he casts this huge spell of these 2 that come up. And partially this is awesome because you're going to do damage, you're going to grapple, it makes this guy more formidable because he's using defiling magic and so forth. But also, these claws of the desert are really cool because they fit the Dark Sun look. They have this kind of iridescent gold and red look. And they're really sharp and pointy, and it just drives home the whole key, one of the big keys to Dark Sun, which is the theme. So, yeah, these are going to be cool in combat, but more so that board to me just screams Dark Sun. So, screaming Dark Sun is something I do a lot. Dark Sun! Okay, we're back again. So the third room to get your Dark Sun campaign underway is what I'm calling salvagers. So once again, I'm just using my foldable chain mini here for your group. But your group comes in from this corner of the board, and you come across this scene. So Again, I have just an insanely simple setup here. This isn't like all about, filling the space. Scatter does a lot for giving players things to do. This takes place out in a rocky outcrop somewhere in the Sea of Silt. So this is an extremely remote location. Now that's important because the subject matter we're going to get into here is a little bit like, whoa. And so if it's too close to a town or something, it won't be believable, and it could disrupt some of the low fantasy elements of Athos. But way out here in the isolated void of the Sea of Silt, this is going to be okay. Now, how did players get here? This is your third kind of group type that you could adopt, which it would be sort of the Dark Sun equivalent of pirates or seafarers. But they have like a skiff that they use to actually slide across the Sea of Silt. Remember, this is just an ocean of like this perfectly fine powder. And with the right kind of skiff with a sail on it and stuff, they can actually slide across this stuff and travel and look for rocky outcrops where they can find treasure, food, water, etc. Like, I would imagine even there'd be an outcrop somewhere out in the Sea of Silt that had trees and water on it and stuff, and like that would be a whole cool adventure. But anyway, this particular time they come up and they catch this glint of this like a metallic gold and steel glint from a distance, and that's what draws them to this rocky outcrop, which is represented by this board. So they come up onto the board, and as they get this close, within this relevant space, the island's a little bigger than this, they get this scene. So what are the components of your scene? You have just some scatter terrain here, you've got some outcroppings, there's a bit of a wooden structure over here that's been built, and then you have two mulls. Mulls are Athos's version of dwarves or half-dwarves. I kind of treat them like Duragar in some way, because they just seem like such nasty, tough pit fighter types with this kind of yellow skin and everything, like, whoa. Anyway, they're over here at this pillar, and this pillar is made out of ore. So it's partially gold, it's partially like this silvery sort of malachite or something, and it's also been hewn, and it's very weird. It's almost like a Dwemer object or something. And these two mulls are down there picking at it with little picks and like tools, and they're talking, and one of them has like a magnifying glass, and they're picking at it. Next to them, they have a cart, and in the cart, there is the wreckage of 3 Warforged. Warforged have nothing to do with Dark Sun, you guys. I'm completely going against all rules. The Warforged come from Eberron. Warforged are basically mechanical sentient creatures. So they're part metal, part wood, and you can just read all about Warforged, have a good time with that. But it looks like these 2 mulls have come across 3 Warforged with this pillar, and like, okay, whoa, so if your players are over here skulking and going like, whoa, what's going on over there? What are these guys doing? They've never seen anything like Warforged, being from Athos. They've never even seen like, a really well-made sword on Athos. I mean, like maybe a lord or a baron would have a really good steel sword, and that would be all the steel for miles. They've never seen anything. This is like a hulking figure, a man, a humanoid who's mostly made of like complexly made steel and stuff. Like, whoa. So their first instinct should be like, those Warforged are worth like a king's ransom. I mean, all that metal, much less the technology or magic that must be making those things. But all of them are kind of busted up and aren't working. So you have these 2 mulls investigating this pillar. You guys probably already see where this is going. So players go up and they're kind of like, hey, we want to check this out. Maybe they talk to the mulls, maybe they sneak up on them, maybe the rogue goes around the side here and assassinates one of them because they know these guys are nasty, or maybe they don't care if they're evil or not, I don't know. Anything could happen with the mulls. You can have, these are intelligent enemies, so you can converse with them, you can convince them, persuade them. So either by investigating, by talking, by whatever, they find out that these Warforged are the soldiers of this group of mulls that live underground. And they're actually under there building these things, and these ones are going in for repairs. So there's like more of them around. Whoa. But you're not going to see any of those. You're only going to see these 3 for now. So pretty soon the mulls are like, yeah, you're going to have to leave now, to put it mildly. They basically want to kill anyone who even finds out they exist. This whole thing is supposed to be secret. So they're going to turn aggressive. It's going to turn combat. These guys are fighting. You kill one of the mulls. He's off the board. Then roll your timer. Your timer's clicking. And when your timer runs out, one of these Warforged managed to, like go... And it's like self-repairing. And it finally stands up. but it's not at full power. And that's important because you guys are level 1. So this thing has like one arm, the other arm has like little squiggles right here, or maybe has one eye, and it's kind of fighting like this, you know. So they're a little bit powered down. The minute one of them pops up, roll your timer again. That's the next one repairing. Combat continues, this mole gets killed. This guy's fighting, the players are barely up to it. This guy comes up. A player sneaks around, he's using cover over here, firing some arrows. Maybe a guy gets up here, makes an archery nest. You know, maybe they find something else on this wagon, like a flask of oil. They light a fire. There's a fire going. Oh my gosh, getting crazy. They manage to take down one of the Warforged. The third timer clicks and the third Warforged comes up. Oh my God, they're fighting these things. They subdue this one, but one of them's down. Like, there's no way they're going to beat a third one of these things. And then someone in the group is finally like, dude, you guys, what is this pillar thing? He goes over, makes some cool rolls on it, realizes it's like an entrance of some kind. And using a series of little metallic things that you line up in these rings, which again is like a sort of an effort task in ICRPG terms, but it's something that takes 2 to 4 rounds to complete. And so while he's like, I'm trying to figure out this door, then these guys are fighting. You guys notice a pattern in my encounters. You know, this is how it works. There's an imminent threat. They work on the threat while something difficult gets resolved. They resolve it, a door opens, and there's a stairway going down into this rocky outcrop. Like, whoa, and the stairs are partially made out of steel, and they're all mechanical and complex and going down like Cybertron or some shit. So maybe they can't defeat this thing and they flee down the stairs. Maybe they defeat it and they manage to salvage a bunch of the metal and like actually pull like one of the like actuated sword arms off one of them. Now they have this kick-ass like Warforged sword, and hell yeah. And then they're like, I've never seen anything like this. If there's even a chance there's more steel like this underground, we have to go investigate, and down they go. There you go. Another super simple encounter to introduce people to Dark Sun. Now this one is the furthest off the map because you're bringing in the Warforged. But I like it because these aren't supposed to be here. This isn't supposed to be part of Athos. This is completely off the wall. Well, where is this headed? I don't know. There's some conspiracy of mulls down beneath the Sea of Silt. And they've been building like a Warforged army and they're planning on conquering Tyr. Right? Cool. Well, that's either good or bad depending on your players. Probably bad. Or maybe they just mean to wipe out all life and replace life with mechanical life on Athos. Because mechanical life is more suited to a waterless world, and so they're going to wipe them out. And they're working with the 3 Kreen. Maybe that wasn't enough gameplay. So they go down these stairs and they find an open chamber. Boom. Get rid of this. Boom. Get rid of this. Make this a wall. Pow. Close it in a little bit so it feels like a room. Here we go. These things. There's no wagon. Get out of here. Right? Add another wall right over here somewhere. Maybe there's a twist right here. So your players come down around the stairs. Here, use this as a wall too. So here's the entrance. It's a narrow entrance. They come in, and instead there's a Warforged here, but there's a 3 Kreen scientist who I will use this lizard guy to represent. So they come into this subterranean chamber. There's another exit back here going downward, and there's a 3 Kreen scientist working on this Warforged. Right? And he's like actually looking to improve it, and he's like installing like a bow and arrow attachment on this thing. And he's got like all these Warforged parts on this table, and it's all hot and dry down here, and like this weird 3 Kreen is down there. And when you know, get into it with him, he gives off this like Bugman signal. It's like, you know, and it's like echoes through the caverns. The Mulls and the 3 Kreen are working together to make this Warforged army, and like, whoa. Maybe you fight the 3 Kreen and he's also a defiler. Maybe this Warforged also comes to life. Maybe you can salvage some stuff off the tables, and on and on and on. Yes, so you guys see where this one goes, the salvagers. This one goes to a very different place. You're just going down and down into Athos, finding more out about this conspiracy. They're eventually going to escape or die, and then they need to basically warn the world and the adventures that ensue as they're being chased by the Mulls and the 3 Kreen across the vastness of the Sea of Silt. So there you go, guys. Those are 3 little ideas. No big deal. I just kind of bulleted them out in my journal and built them up real quick just with minimal amount of scatter. But still really fun because the tone is just so different. And that's not even getting into all the details. You know, I just blow through these videos. That isn't even getting into like who the characters are, what their motivations are, what the equipment is like, how much supplies they have, the descriptions and the tone and the different roles and all the saves and everything. Oh man, there's just so much to be done for this much gameplay. You could also string these three pieces of gameplay together. Maybe the dragon and the Warforged army are connected. Maybe the girl in the cage knows about the Warforged army, and so the dragon wants to wipe her out because the dragon also wants to rule this mechanical army, or something. They're in cahoots in some weird way. Maybe the Citadel is part of the dragon's story. Maybe the Citadel of Sand is actually where the dragon dwells, like the big one, not the little guy. The big daddy, he's under there. It's like a thing made to contain him. And so when they go in there, they find that out and they have to report back about the findings. By then you've got the Drac cult is like wanting to bring, oh, this can intertwine in a million ways. And I know you guys will find cooler ways to do it than I did because I just blew right through it. But I just want to get this video up because we're having fun with Dark Sun this week and I'm about to head off to Tucson.